Stock versus original. A discussion that predates most of this game's players. There's still a great deal of talk around these weapons over 13 years later, so I want to try and clear the air and help you make up your own mind on which you prefer. As you can probably tell, I'll be focusing on the functionality side of things and not aesthetics, so if you just like how one looks, then you've got it easy. Rockets fired from the stock launcher physically align with the weapon's tube. This isn't just visual, the rockets do spawn slightly to the right, compared to the original where it fires mostly center, and behaves more like a hit-scan weapon. This is pretty useful, as it lets you fire the enemy while remaining mostly concealed, and plays well into hit-scan classes, since it'll be more difficult to return fire back at you. Snipers can't see your head, and sentries won't even lock on. Now this is great for half the corners in the map. Yeah, this only favors the right side of your screen, so you'll need to peek further for left corners than you would with the original, since the offset's to the right. This is by far the main benefit of the original, as peeking either side will have consistent crosshair placement and will never require wide peeking. Rocket jumping is also affected by this behavior, but there's not a whole lot of difference unless you're playing on jump maps. In actual matches, just make sure to account for the offset when jumping off thin surfaces by aiming slightly ahead of it, or else you'll miss your jump. When it comes to the more technical jumps like pogos and wall climbs, you'll also need to compensate for the stock's offset, usually by aiming more to the left, and you also may need to air strafe to correct your course if you want to go in a straight line. Jumping off left-sided walls doesn't favour stock so much, as it requires a greater flick than off right walls, whereas the original is balanced on either side. This caveat isn't a huge deal, as most rollouts and jump maps utilise right walls anyway. And no, I haven't forgotten about flipped view models, or the dozen of you who use them. It's essentially just stock, but fires from the left side instead. Valve made sure not to let you spam this command, so don't think you'll be playing Rainbow Six anytime soon. Okay, enough lecturing. What difference does this actually make in a match of TF2? If you frequent Soldier's other launches, then I generally recommend sticking with stock for the most part, as they all share the same offset and would behave as you'd expect. I find stock is best used when firing into chokes or objectives, or essentially when you know where the enemy is. This lets you deal damage without putting yourself in danger, and is really good when holding any defensive position, and applies to pretty much most game modes like defense side of payload or attack defend, and when defending on 5 CP. Like I mentioned before, stock does come with its caveats. I can easily destroy this sentry with the original, but with stock, adjusting for the offset isn't enough, and I have to resort to using splash damage, which takes an additional rocket. I also feel like this last rocket would have landed had I been using the original, but maybe I just missed. On attack side, you often have to peek the enemy just to figure out where they're situated, or either take a flank where they can't see you. Either way you approach, you won't be firing from behind corners so often, and I feel the original is better for this confrontational and more offensive playstyle. You'll know this well if you've played in competitive before. Fights can be flipped on their head in an instant, so playing around any sort of cover you can get your hands on is really important. I find the original is better in one respect, since you don't need to account for an offset, and can instead just focus on landing consistent shots. Not to mention with smaller team sizes and better communication with your team, there's less need for preemptive shooting behind cover, so you won't be taking advantage of the offset as much. Now, don't overthink all of this. Your own skill will determine a lot more than what tools you use, and there is no better weapon. Let me know your thoughts and which noob tube you prefer in the comments below. A like and sub is greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching.